Our next session is strengthening supply chains. Without money, nothing happens. Without supply chain, nothing happens. So I thank US Pharmacopoeia for being our mission, part of our mission over the last 3 years, and supporting us as a knowledge partner. And delivering the keynote address is Mr. Girish Kapoor, who's the Senior Vice President, India Site Operations, Site Head USP India. Dr. Krishna Reddy, I'm not going to introduce him again. Brigadier General Engineer Ahmed Salah, Chairman Advisor for Medical Equipment, Unified Procurement Authority, Egypt. Please join us on the dais. Dr. Hala Zaid, again, our own, so no more introductions. Dr. Rakesh Mishra, again, our big partner and supporter, Tata Institute for Genomics and Society. He is globally recognized and has served as the director of CCMB. So he brings his perspective there. Dr. Fateh Abraham, chairman of the board and CEO, Academic International Trading Company, AIT, professor of the Pharmaceutical and Indian Pharmacy, and our board member, Professor John C.W. Lim, who's joining us virtually. He's our executive director, NUS Center for Regulatory Excellence, healthcare professional, and government regulator. I'm going to let them set up the slides for you, Girish, and it's all yours.
So good morning, everyone. First of all, at the outset, I would like to thank XSL for organizing such a wonderful conference where I think we have speakers from a very diversified backgrounds. And it was a pleasure to listen today to some of the banking aspects and also several of the disaster mitigation strategies. And now we'll change gears and move on to the health system resilience, especially with respect to the pharma medicine supply chain. My name is Girish, and I work for US Pharmacopoeia based out of Hyderabad, and that's one of the biggest global hubs for US Pharmacopoeia outside of US. So our headquarters are in Rockville, Maryland, and the other big hub is in Hyderabad, where our lab facilities and other teams are located. So moving on. Okay. So I think we have talked about a lot of vulnerabilities with respect to the healthcare system, but now I think more about the pharma supply chain. And this session and panel discussion, I think we will have more time to answer the questions. So I will quickly sift through slides, and if you have any questions, so please park it when we have the panel discussion. So the supply chain vulnerabilities and the resilience gaps, so they actually create a lot of risk for a patient, and also that gives an opportunity for the bad actors to come in and exploit the situation. We'll see how. I don't know why this keeps on coming up for some reason. Okay, so USP is a 205-year-old organization, which has 1,300 plus global staff. As I mentioned, 2 global hubs, one in Maryland, close to Washington, and one in Hyderabad, India. And we have more than 460 partner organizations with more than 40 countries represented in our governance model, where we have more than 1,000 expert volunteers and 200 plus US FDA liaisons, and also from several regulatory authorities across the globe. We closely work with the EDA. So that's also one of our close partners. And we have the board of trustees. Dr. Krishna Reddy is also one of the board members for the current 5-year cycle. So USP's mission to improve global health through public standards and related programs. And we are not only catering to the medicines, but also to the foods, dietary supplements as well, and ensure the quality, safety, and benefit for patients. So I think these 4 disruptors we have heard in different conversations today. So the transforming geopolitical order, there have been a lot of rising tensions across the globe, and that also affects the pharma supply chain a lot. So I think that's one of the factors which we also keep in mind, what we have seen over the last, say, 3-4 years, because of which the medicine supply chain has been disrupted to a large extent. Other one is the revolutionary advancements in tech and medicine. I think we all know about the large language models, but also the impact of AI and ML in how we develop medicines, whether it is drug discovery or development, and especially manufacturing. So I think a lot of people are talking about advanced manufacturing technologies and how to use that to scale, to reach to a scale where they have not reached as of now, and then from 10x, how we can go to 100x in a very cost-effective manner. And then the pharmaceutical market dynamics. I think we will hear more about it because the world is moving from small molecules to personalized and specialized therapies in terms of moving to biosimilars, to cell and gene therapy, and several other modalities which we have seen over the last few years. But how those are doing in terms of scalability and patient accessibility, that is something we will discuss more. Then I think expectations from global institutions. So I think as the world changes, the top three factors, so we have a lot of expectations from the regulators of different countries. While US FDA is considered one of the strongest medicine regulator across the world, I think there is a lot of expectation from other countries to strengthen their regulatory framework in terms of regulators being more adaptable to the new innovative therapies or the complex generics which are coming up, so that they can review those dossiers and then approve the medicines for the patients of their regions. So I think that's where also USP works a lot. And we work in a very evolving pharmaceutical environment across different products, different processes, the entire supply chain, and of course, regulators from several countries, not only the more mature ones, but also from the LMICs. We work very closely with all of them. Across the supply chain, I think we all talked about risks, but I think there are a lot of actions and call to actions to be taken in terms of what we can do now to reduce barriers to innovation. And there are a lot of manufacturers who are really skeptical about how AMT would work, how implementing new technologies would help them. Is it really an investment which they would like to make? Is there really a return on investment? If they do X, then will they get 2X over a short term or a long term period of time? I think that is where we also help them to understand if they are not informed about a particular scientific process or manufacturing process, and also any kind of awareness session which they need. Similarly, for expanding manufacturing capacity, efficiency in the regulatory review, I already mentioned about that, enabling quality assured medicines. And last but not the least, healthcare quality and safety. So which runs across all the other elements which are mentioned on this slide. So USP works in a 5-year cycle, and our current 5-year cycle is going to end in June 2025. And we have been preparing for more than 18 months now for our next 5-year cycle, which is 2025 to 2030. As you can see, the third vertical, we have 6 main priorities, which will encompass throughout the pharma supply chain. But the third one talks about strengthening the resilience of global pharmaceutical supply chain. So while I'm short on time in delving deep into the factors, but we can hear more when we go to the panel discussion. And you can see environmental sustainability also is one of the key 6 priorities which we will work on in the next 5-year cycle. The other ones are more generic, but we have a specific focus when we go to the sub areas of each vertical, wherein our priorities lie. Because this is not formed only by USP staff, this is formed by the 400 member organizations and the other healthcare regulators across the globe when we arrive finally at these 6 mission commitments for the next 5 years. We'll touch upon this. I'm not going through the numbers, but I think you can see what kind of impact is there if we don't address the drug shortages at the right time. And addressing them means also predicting the drug shortages. So we have developed some tools which help us to predict the drug shortages and take actions accordingly to mitigate all those risks. Some root cause drivers of supply chain disruption, especially the pharma supply chain. I think we know about the quality challenges, the manufacturing capacity and infrastructure we talked about. We have seen what happened during COVID, and since then, I think the shortages have been lingering on for quite some time. And also the geopolitical dynamics, which have been more pronounced in the last, say, 2 to 3 years. And we don't know which way it will go in the next few years. So we all have to be ready to address those challenges as well. Natural disasters, I think we saw some pictures from France and Japan, wherever the disasters happen. And that is, I think, has been talked about already. So raising the bar for supply chain insight. So we basically have tools which actually help us to map the entire upstream of the supply chain of the drugs. When I say upstream, it means from where the API or the active pharmaceutical ingredient is being sourced. Even before that, what were the key starting materials? Who are the vendors and suppliers? Are they qualified or not? What are the chemicals and solvents which are being used? And then also another important aspect which comes is excipients, the quality of excipients. There have been a lot of cases where excipients have found to be the culprit, which cause contamination of several of the finished dosage forms. Moving on, so medicine supply map developed by USP is one of the tools which we can use to predict the vulnerabilities, and also simultaneously by use of AI and ML predict the drug shortages. So if we are able to predict that, then I think those gives a lot of good alerts and insights into what kind of shortages or for what kind of drugs, what kind of therapeutic areas we expect in the next, say, 3 to 12 months. And that can alert the companies, that can alert the regulators, and in turn, that will help the patients also to plan their therapies. I'll skip this slide in the interest of time. Four key drivers. I think these came up in several discussions since morning, and we can delve deep into each one of them. But I think for us, the key to know is that geographic concentration, manufacturing complexity because of the new kind of drugs and therapies which are being introduced, and also price. Pricing discussions have happened earlier, but I think that still remains one of the key factors because patients want at low prices, but pharma companies need that margin. So low price, low margin, I think that has been something which has been discussed by the US FDA. There have been a lot of reports from CEDAR, Center of Drug Evaluation and Research in 2019. And there is another report by Brooks Hamilton in 2023. So that also mentions about the low benefit for manufacturing, the low price and low margin drugs. So we don't have any reward for manufacturers who do produce at a large scale where there is very low margin for drugs which are actually needed most for the patients. And quality, of course, that remains paramount when we talk about medicines, because eventually it's a patient, and patient can be any one of us, our family member, our friends. It can be anyone. So we have to, we can't compromise with quality, and we have to have the drug in the right quality, in the right dose, at the right time to the patient available anywhere across the world. Nitrosamines, I think another public health issue which came in 2018 with respect to sartans, and also then was talked about in several other categories, except, I mean, apart from the angiotensin blocker. So I think there were other class of drugs which also came into the ambit where it was suspected that prolonged exposure to nitrosamine can cause cancer. So that's where all the manufacturers had to comply to the limits which were then proposed for by several regulators across the globe. So we also have more than 9,000 standards across the entire supply chain, so which helps the manufacturers, distributors, pharmacies, hospitals, healthcare providers, and of course, in an indirect way to patients also, because they get the quality assured medicines. So we discussed about these four factors. Actually, I've shown you, not discussed in detail, But I think while individually they are very important, but there is an interplay of all these four factors, which can be catastrophic, either two of them or three of them, or all four of them, because it depends on region to region, which region of the world we are talking about. And in some regions, maybe price and manufacturing complexity, two of them can play an important role, while in others, quality and price can both play a pivotal role when we talk about drugs being available. It also depends on the patient population, whether we are talking about geriatric, pediatric, because we have seen those cases where quality was compromised in several of the pediatric medicines, and that can have a play with the manufacturing complexity, price, and then quality, of course. So combination also can be a lot of put a lot of factors which are vulnerable for the supply chain. And when all that happens, I think there is a patient desperation, and what that causes is there is an increased demand of alternatives. Okay, so if I can't take that, then is there any other alternative or substitute of this medicine which I can take if one goes out of shortage? And if there is a geographic concentration, if the alternative also is being manufactured at a facility which has been issued an import alert anywhere, whether in India or any other part of the world, then you can't take that as well. And that has happened in many cases, especially in the onco drugs. So we have seen that one company was issued an import alert. The main drug and the substitutes were all being manufactured at that particular manufacturing plant. And that also creates an opportunity for the counterfeit and substandard falsified medicines to enter the market, so which will eventually harm the patients. And that also may cause, when the shortages are there, demand is more. So regulatory oversight also might be weakened. So that's another factor which can come into play when we talk about the overall supply chain disruption. And of course, this all leads to patient desperation because they need medicines, but because of the demand supply gap, we can't do that. Moving on, I think not going through the details, but I think all of us are aware about the diethylene glycol and ethylene glycol incidents which happened because of the poisoning. And several deaths have been reported, especially among the pediatric population in different parts of the globe. And some of the manufacturers of those medicines are based out of India. It was in public domain a few years back and still continues off and on in several parts of the globe. So we prepared a DEG toolkit for that, wherein it helps the healthcare practitioners and also the pharma companies that how to test the content of DEG and EEG in their cough syrups. And we have monographs. So if we test against the DEG, EEG limits, which are mentioned in the US pharmacopoeia, you will be assured that your product has the right amount of both these excipients which cause poisoning. Apex supply chain toolkit. So I think this talks more about supply chain security rather than the entire upstream. So wherein you can detect if the product is of the right quality or not. And I'm not going into the details here again. A path forward. So what we can do. So I think there are a lot of early warning systems and tools which can be used, like the medicine supply map and several other capability program for industry or awareness sessions for even the regulators, where they want specialized training, how to conduct inspections, how to do a dossier review, or on any other topic which are emerging. For example, complex generics, 3D printing. So people are still getting used to it, advanced manufacturing technologies. The second one, creating a vulnerable medicine list, so that we know which drugs are more prone to shortage, so that those can be addressed, because we will be able to trace the entire upstream, and which I talked about earlier, so that we can address those risks accordingly. Geographic diversity, not to remain only in one region to avoid the risk of concentration, but also diversify into several other regions across the globe, which has its own pros and cons. And I think we can have those conversations as well. And then incentives for prioritizing essential medicines, because if there is low cost and low margin for manufacturers, and if there is no reward or incentive for them, then I think they will move out of the manufacturing of those low cost, low margin drugs, and move into a place where they get more margins and more cost. So I think that's more margin and low cost, or more margin and more cost. So I think which helps the manufacturers, so they will move towards that. But that is not in the larger interest of public health, and also not in the interest of the patients. And then dynamic stockpiling. So we have advocated a lot with the regulators in several countries, including Africa, for pooled procurement. So I think if I can't procure as a country one particular set of medicines, I think there can be a pooled procurement from several countries, and from that pool you can tap into that pool and give those medicines to the different countries in that region. So there can be bodies which can do that, and that will also help the players which can't procure directly, so they can depend on others. But yes, we need a lot of unified voices to speak about it, and then make certain forums which can help that. uh, Advanced manufacturing technologies which would help in making medicines at a scale which is more cost efficient, and where there is also a reward or incentive from the government or other mechanisms by which manufacturers will remain motivated to produce the low cost and low margin drugs. Last but not the least, I think this requires a lot of advocacy and coordination among the government and non-government stakeholders. So, of course, that will always be the key, because no one company, no one, I think, academia or academic institution, or for that matter, any non-governmental organization can do that. All of them have to come at the talking table, and then discuss and deliberate that, and then list out the actions. I think that's my last slide. With that, I end my presentation. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Girish, for a good overlay of entire thing about the supply chain resilience. Though the USP primarily is the objective is to assure standards and assure quality of the drugs across the globe, but they have expanded as their primary focus in terms of supply chain resilience across the globe. I being part of the USP board, so I keep listening to this topic every quarter. So that's why it's familiar to me. Now switching over to the panel discussion, because we have, because I have designed the panel in such a fashion that we start with research and development, then the regulatory principles and the regulation, and then the manufacturing, and then the procurement and the consumption. Because this entire cycle, supply chain cycle, from research and development to the consumption. So I will go in the same sequence in terms of, for some of the students of public health and the health systems here, it will be a good learning exercise in terms of understanding supply chain and its resilience. Yesterday, we covered most of the threats, health threats. And today, as you are understanding, we are trying to address the solutions from the building blocks of the health systems. So one of the solutions, I mean, one of the major building blocks is the finance, and the next building block is supply chain, and next is the human resource for health. I think that's the follows this session after the lunch. For what we realized is that those countries which have their built-in ecosystem for the research and development, those countries were more resilient when there was a crisis. That was exemplified by India because of the ecosystem. So I start my first question with Dr. Rakesh Mishra, because he grew with India's R&D ecosystem, the science and technology ecosystem in various capacities, went on to become the director of a premier institution, R&D institution, and now he heads the Tata Institute for Genomics and Society. So he is best positioned to give why it is important, how it has to be nurtured by countries aiming at supply chain resilience. Over to you, Rakesh.
Thank you, Krishna, for inviting me in arranging this terrific meeting. I've been really consumed. I forgot what I have to say here, listening to such an interesting talk. But for the country, yeah. So country like India, we have to have really our own infrastructure for making things. And but even in normal times, and during the emergencies or pandemics, it becomes absolutely essential that we have the manufacturing of drugs and diagnostics in place. Uh, we learned during the pandemic when we need to do diagnostics for so many people, there was hardly any kit available and it would cost 3,000, 4,000 per test. And then we decided to get together several institutions, several industry, and just to cut long story short, within 9 months we came up with the help of industry. Our job was only to do the quality control and keep testing the kit every day. A kit that was available for less than 100 rupees, manufacturing cost was actually 60 rupees for that. And now we have diagnostics for COVID available in the country, less than 10 rupees production cost, and it's available in market off shelf for 30 rupees. Government buys for 13 rupees. So this is an example that we are the biggest market in the world. So what we can economize, no other country can easily do. In fact, we should become a supply center for others in these kinds, especially in global south, and why not in the other countries. So instead of being just the pharmacy of the world where we supply 40%, 50% of drug, but hold only 7% of the revenue, I think we can now with biotech, we can do the high end supply and analysis. Uh, for example, Giri just mentioned about new kinds of drugs like bioactives, immunotherapy, gene therapy. These are things they don't require huge industry. Any of they can be done in a laboratory of this size where we are sitting, because these are if you know how to read the genome, which is now very easy, everybody is doing. If you know how to edit the genome, which is also in the laboratories, hundreds of labs are doing in India, then rest organism will do for you. You just have to manage it properly. So the manufacturing is taking a different trend now, where we have to focus on the quality. That is one thing which our industry has been sometimes not up to the mark. And if we make that criteria, our regulatory system has to be more supportive, more transparent, and responsible. Do not delay, because these are things will come not with necessarily with big companies. They will come, but they will come, as you just heard, for the higher margin, more profit, and so on. But we have thousands of entrepreneurs who are hungry for success. They should be supported. They have understanding of technology. They can do the things, but they need regulatory support so that they don't run out of enthusiasm and even resources, because they don't have lots of funding for them. So it's and then of course the biotech is, as I mentioned, it's not a fifth generation fighter jet. This can be done in very simple way. Just we have to control the process and set up the system that we can do trials. We have to have new policies in place, because there are many drugs that are coming for which we don't have policy. So then we have to set and make those things. We are working with the government. Government is very much supportive for this, and industry should come forward, and we are doing things with the various agencies. One more thing, just before, because it's a long panel, so I don't want to walk all the time. One thing which I'm very excited about what government is doing is setting up technology platforms, biofoundries, where you can, if you want to, let's say, make a monoclonal antibody for treatment, you just give the sequence, they will make a mRNA particle for that, test it. Now you can go and start trying out. Or you want a new kind of rice, you tell which gene you want to edit, they can edit and give you in 6 months. After that you can go to field trial. If it is works, you can go and do it. So that means you don't have to have all the departments of R&D, which is concept, then technology, then designing the thing, making the editing, and then manufacturing, and so on. So that is where the government has realized that they are setting up this kind of technology platforms where entrepreneurs can go get their product made and then go out to the market for trials and other things. So I think we are looking for a huge opportunity. As I said, uh, we could sell our companies could make the diagnostic for COVID for 13 rupees or 30 rupees. Uh, the one major factor was the scale, which is not available with any other country. So we can do things in far more cheaper and effective way than others. We should not depend on uh, uh, for key things for the import all the time. In fact, we should become the manufacturing hub, and there's so much of young uh, 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 human resource available, And as was just mentioned, Krishna also said there's such a R&D infrastructure we have. Most institutions have all the modern technologies with them. So that can now get translated into something very useful for the people. So I'll stop there, but we can.
Yeah, thanks, Rakesh. I think you summarized the need for countries who are looking at building the supply chain resilience to invest into this ecosystem. Not only invest into ecosystem, but also have conducive policies. And not only conducive policies, but also develop that collaborative spirit, because there was a huge collaboration between the public and private ecosystems, R&D labs collaborating during the crisis. But the same collaborative mentality, if it is extended to the normal times as well, we can fast track a lot of innovations at a very fraction of a cost. We don't require millions or billions of dollars to develop an innovative molecule. So this is a one step, one solution of nurturing an ecosystem. But when you have an ecosystem, then the next barrier comes is innovation to the regulation. So that's where I hope Professor Lim is online. Professor Lim.
Yes, hello.
Yeah, thanks, John Lim. I come to you because from an academic perspective, as a professor of Center for Regulatory Excellence, as well as the previous experience as a regulator yourself, given the fast pace of disruptive technologies, health technologies in terms of the molecular technologies, genetic engineering, cell-based therapies, the digital therapeutics, the digital diagnostics, given these disruptive technologies, how do we reform the regulatory, the normal pace of regulatory approach, which actually makes innovation to the patient bedside almost 1 decade or 2 decades? So since your institution is working in terms of bringing out a much more faster mechanisms without compromising on the quality and the safety of the product, we would love to hear your viewpoints and also the research work that your institution is carrying out on this.
Thank you, Dr. Reddy. Thank you also for the invitation to join you virtually. So I think in response to your question, in fact, prior to the pandemic, for about 10 years already before COVID-19 hit us, there were a lot of initiatives globally to ensure that the regulatory systems and frameworks around the world were converging more, and there was a lot more capacity building. And so there were collaborative initiatives, especially like the establishment of the International Coalition of Medicines Regulatory Authorities, which became very significant in the course of the early years of the pandemic. The critical issue really was the fact that many regulators in different jurisdictions didn't really interact with one another, and neither was there a sense of capacity building. So even though there were gold standard regulatory agencies like the US FDA, the European Medicines Agency, the Japanese PMDA, you would find that there wasn't much communication. So that was a fundamental issue, that the collaboration communication is quite fundamental to ensuring that regulatory system strengthening is occurring, not just within countries, but around the world, because a single country on its own would not really be able to know what to do if it's not taking reference from others. So in that context, the WHO global benchmarking tool is actually quite fundamental, which has come through where you're looking at the maturity levels of regulatory agencies around the world. And essentially what the WHO is promoting is that countries should be aiming for what they call maturity levels 3 or 4, because those are then when they're fully functioning and highly developed regulatory agencies, which can then become reference agencies for other agencies in the regions. And this is extremely important when we're thinking about developed versus LMICs, global south versus others, because agencies on their own would be very hard pressed. And often I used to say they're like the Cinderellas of the healthcare system, because they're sort of left in the corners and largely ignored by the politicians. So it's extremely important to upgrade, and that's where the WHO system is quite fundamental. And now, of course, we also talk about WHO listed authorities. So having this kind of referencing system is extremely important. But to address the issues of supply chain and resilience, there's also the need for agility. So this was also something we saw during the pandemic, that if each regulatory agency, even if they're advancing, but they have a whole series of very onerous approaches to approving, especially new therapeutics and innovative products, that's actually going to impede access and create inequities. So even if you have all the logistics supply chains in place, but you run up against regulatory barriers within countries, you're going to not actually be able to solve the issues of access to life-saving therapeutics and innovative therapeutics. So those issues all come into play when we're thinking of regulatory systems strengthening and capacity building. And just referencing, I think, some of the earlier comments made, in this current era where there's so much geopolitical turbulence, I think, in fact, it behoves even more that regulators are functioning as collaborative entities, referencing one another within and across regions. And in fact, my own thinking is that if the traditional references, in fact, are in a sense falling apart because of the tensions we're seeing today, there need to be new approaches. So in a sense, I'm echoing a little bit of what Dr. Rakesh was saying, that although he's coming from the R&D perspective, there needs to be a sense where regulators also are looking for new channels to interact and cooperate. And of course, regulation is quite fundamental to supply chain resiliency. But what I'm saying is that the diversification of collaborative opportunities, platforms, approaches need to be addressed, because I think if we're not doing this now, as we're beginning to see the huge turbulence that we're just seeing even within the course of the few months of this year alone, I think we are potentially going into quite a dangerous situation in terms of supply chain resiliency and medicines access. So I think those are some preliminary comments I would make, Dr. Reddy. I mean, I could say more, but I will stop there first and just leave it there, unless you have specific questions. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, Professor Lim. I think we will move on to the country example of Egypt trying to actually bring major reforms in their own health systems and governance systems of building a resilient supply chain system, not only for Egypt itself, but also become the hub for the entire region, the African region as well as the Middle East region. So that's why we have a panel of delegates coming all the way from Egypt during the holy month of Ramadan, and they're fasting. So we don't have urgency for our lunch session because the panelists are fasting. So I would like to start with Dr. Hala, who, as a health minister, former health minister, was responsible for some of the transformative changes during her tenure. She was in the midst of COVID, and also before the COVID, a major achievement of eliminating hepatitis C from Egypt, first in the world. And she was also instrumental in, I think, setting up and strengthening the EDA. So since she is the best position to actually give the overarching view of what Egypt is doing, but we have representatives heading the procurement side, the representatives heading on the provisioning side, and also we have the private sector representing the production side. So we have a very galaxy of panels appropriate for the supply chain, representing the link in the supply chain. Over to you, Dr. Hala.
Thank you, Dr. Reddy. Good afternoon, everybody. I would like to welcome Mr. Ambassador of Egypt, Kamel Galal, for his participation for us today. And I will use my old hat as when I was the Minister of Health of Egypt from mid of 2018 to August 2022. And we succeed to establish the first independent drug authority, Egypt Drug Authority, and the Unified Procurement Authority a few weeks before pandemic. So at the end of 2019. And actually, there is a lot of key efforts spent from EDA towards the localization and towards the more efficient products and at the end to be more resilient. So, as Professor John Lim mentioned, the maturity level 3 from WHO, we worked hardly with the WHO to achieve maturity level 3 for vaccines to enable us to produce COVID-19 vaccines. And we achieved the maturity level 3 in 2021. And at the end of 2024, Egypt and EDA achieved maturity level 3 for medicines. So Egypt is the first and the only country in the continent of Africa who achieved the maturity level 3 in medicines and vaccines. And this will enable us to accelerate the approval of local products and also facilitate the exports. And as also Professor John mentioned, this enabled Egypt to be a reference authority for the region. So with the maturity level 3 for both vaccines and medicines, Egypt can be the right gate for Africa and for the region. The other thing that the ETA achieved is a full member of International Council for Harmonization. And this is very important to, and they achieved this at November 2023. And with this full membership, this will harmonize the approval process of the local products with international best practice, and also facilitate the mutual recognition between Egypt and different countries, and also make Egypt the hub for the training and the capacity building for different countries in the region and in the continent, African continent, to support them technically to achieve the full membership of the ICH. The other thing that I do remember, we spent 2 years to convince different countries in Africa to sign on AMA. AMA is the Africa Medicines Agency, and Egypt was one of the founders for AMA, and now AMA will established in Kigali, and we have a board member from Egypt, and AMA role will harmonize and unify the regulations and regulatory framework for all countries in the continent, enabling the countries to exchange and to export and import, and to facilitate the registration of their products. With these achievements, EDA succeed to sign different MOU with different countries. Bilateral agreement with Zambia, Zimbabwe, Madagascar, and the Democratic Republic of Congo. And this will enable Egypt to export their products and register the products in 1 month in these countries. So 1 month for registration. And bilateral agreement with Nigeria and South Africa to facilitate the registration and exporting of the products between these countries. But also EDA respond to the digital transformation and AI era, and EDA succeed to use the CDT or a common technical document, and now it is ECDT. This can facilitate the registration and shorten the process and make it more efficient. But they also establish a platform for track and trace, digital platform with a blockchain and AI solution to guarantee the accuracy of data and the efficiency. So to conclude Egypt or Egypt Drug Authority efforts, all these efforts enable Egypt to be the right gate again to the region and to the Africa, and the technical arm for different countries in our continent, and supporting for the different patients and enable or improve the access of treatment. You know, the medicines and products of Egypt very low price in comparison to all the region and maybe worldwide. And this can encourage different investors to come to Egypt to localize with the government and the private sector the more medicines, APIs, biological products, vaccines, as well as medical devices. And of course, when they go to Egypt, they can easily go to all the African continent. Thank you, Dr.
Thanks, Dr. Hala. I think that is a clear-cut case example, of country example of how, in such a short period of time, you have achieved the maturity level 3. Not only that, you have become leader in terms of harmonizing the entire African medical agency. So I think this is a good example in terms of other countries to emulate and other regions to emulate as to how to build a regulatory system which is fit for purpose for the resilience. I think that's important. I think it deserves a round of applause. Moving on from the regulation to the manufacturing, because that is the next step of manufacturing. Dr. Fatih Ibrahim is here. He represents the largest manufacturing organization in Egypt and also in the region. From a manufacturer perspective, I mean, one of course is, as we have been already discussing in terms of why it requires collaboration between the public and the private, and also collaboration between different countries. And we are fortunate, actually, Ambassador is here, and India and Egypt have signed their relationship to a strategic level, which implies that India and Egypt is going to collaborate in strengthening the supply chains in the region, not only for Egypt, but entire region. And we play a small part, Access Health will play a small part in this, connecting these dots between the different countries. So we are indirectly ambassadors, connecting the goodwill of people across the countries. So given this rapidly evolving ecosystem in terms of the manufacturing ecosystem, that as a manufacturer, your perspectives on what are the current gaps and what Egypt is doing and industry is doing to build the type of resilience that is required.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Reddy. First of all, I would like to extend my sincere gratitude to Her Excellency Minister Dr. Hala Zaid for her kind invitation to attend the annual conclave of GLC. Also, I would like to thank Access Health International, especially Dr. Reddy, Dr. Oma, for his and all team for his great effort and warm hospitality, as well as I don't forget to thank Dr. Ulf Al-Ghurab, Chairman of Academa Group in Egypt, who authorized me to attend on her behalf. As Academa Group, was established since 1976, and now have about 17 pharmaceutical facilities in Egypt. Academia Groups is regarded as the leader in MENA region, and Academia today serves and secures the Egyptian market for about more than 1,200 products that covering about 45 therapeutic area with about 16 employees. So Academia International is one of subsidiary affiliates to Academia Groups. Academia International have 2 dedicated facilities, one of them for production of aerosol in both types, compressed and non-compressed aerosol, and the other dedicated facility for production of hormonal product, all forms of hormonal products like contraceptive, corticosteroid hormones, and other, with a capacity of about 1 billion tablets per year, and also having a sterile area for producing the hormonal vial, liquid and suspension, and also hormonal ampoule, liquid and suspension. So, in response to your question, Egypt transformation private pharmaceutical sector. Egypt pharmaceutical sector is undergoing significant transformation in response to multiple crises, such as COVID-19 pandemic, economic challenges, and disruption in global supply chain. So these experiences has underscored the necessity of building a resilient health system and emphasize the importance of stronger public-private partnership to ensure sustainable health care delivery. So I will try to summarize the situation in some points. Number 1, adapting to supply chain disruption. COVID-19 pandemic highlighted the vulnerabilities in global supply chain for critical pharmaceutical and medical supplies. So, in response to this pandemic, Egypt private pharmaceutical sector has diversified supply chain and increased total manufacturing capabilities. Investment in research and development has enabled firms to produce active pharmaceutical ingredient domestically, reducing reliance on import. For example, Academia Group is planning to set a facility for producing active pharmaceutical ingredient with investment about $200 million in align with EPICO and Economic Suez Canal Zone to establish active pharmaceutical ingredient manufacturing in Egypt. Number 2, strengthening the local manufacturing competencies. Egypt private pharmaceutical sector has significantly enhanced domestic manufacture capacity for essential medicine, vaccine, and medical supplies by utilizing innovative technologies and international quality standards have been adopted by pharmaceutical company. During the pandemic, Egyptian firms collaborated with international partners for manufacture of vaccine on site, like Sinovac and AstraZeneca vaccine, to bolstering self-sufficiency and regional distribution capacity. Number 3, upholding public-private partnership. The recent public crises have highlighted the necessity for improved coordination between the public and the private sector in addressing healthcare challenges. Public-private partnership are essential for building resilience health system in Egypt. So the government promotes private sector involvement in various healthcare projects, such as including specialized treatment centers and vaccination for impoverished communities, aiding equitable healthcare distribution. Number 4, tackling affordability and accessibility. A major challenge in Egypt healthcare system is ensuring that medicine remain affordable and accessible, especially for low-income communities. So, the Egypt's private pharmaceutical sector responded to tiered pricing models, discount, and participation in governmental initiatives to provide essential medication at reduced prices. Furthermore, collaboration with non-governmental organizations and international organizations aims to deliver low-cost or free medication in rural and underserved areas, thus narrowing the gap in healthcare access. Finally, promoting regional and global partnership. Egypt's private pharmaceutical sectors working to expand its regional and global collaboration to enhance capabilities and reach. Partnership with organizations such as WHO facilitate knowledge transfer, technology sharing, and capacity building. This collaboration allow Egyptian firms to contribute to the global health initiatives and also tapping into new market opportunity. In conclusion, the transformation in Egypt's private pharmaceutical sector are paving the way for sustainable healthcare system in response to recent public crisis through diversification of supply chain, growth in local manufacture, strengthening in public-private partnership, and efforts to tackle affordability. The sector plays a critical role in enhancing health delivery. Public-private collaboration is essential for ensuring enduring healthcare improvement and the well-being of Egyptian citizens, positioning Egypt as a leader in the regional pharmaceutical industry. Thank you.
Thanks for outlining those 5 pillars of resilient manufacturing transformation. I think well articulated, and all of those points look really actionable, pragmatic, and practical. Again, this is a lesson for countries aspiring to become self-reliant in the manufacturing of not only the pharmaceuticals, but the devices, medical devices, the newer molecular technologies, and the diagnostics as well, because they also equally are important. Shifting to the next level of, because one of the things that is impacting the financial sustainability of countries is the rising costs on account of technology innovation and other things. And as 2 strategies have been definitely proved to be highly effective. That is pooling of procurement, whether it's a global level or a regional level. I mean, we have the Global Fund, we have the Act. Some of these are Gavi is there, which is a global example of pooling of procurement. And there are certain regional examples emerging in terms of the procurement and the national examples as well. The second strategy, which I think is being utilized by countries, is in terms of pooling of patents. That means countries come together and acquire the patent and then sub-license to the local manufacturers at a cost which is affordable, instead of manufacture directly going to the innovator molecules. That is the second strategy which people are trying to adopt in terms of reducing cost and making finances sustainable. So given this background, and UPA is playing an important role in trying to achieve this affordable cost despite advancing the technology by pooling of efforts in procurement. And second question is this pooling of procurement meant only for the public providers, or is it also meant for private providers? Because we recently initiated an effort in one of the states in India of pooling of cancer drugs to be supplied to both public providers as well as private providers. Over to you.
First of all, thank you, Dr. Reddy, for this great event, Conclave in the 3rd edition. And thanks, Mr. Excellency, the Ambassador of Egypt and India, for arrangement to attend this event. And thanks also for Excellency Dr. Hala Zaid for his support to be here in this event. For these questions, for the private and the public. For UBE, we do both. We do for private and for public hospitals the same. We can do, but the private, they have the rights to get their pharmaceuticals or medical devices from UBE or from by themselves. They have the choice, but in the public they must do through UBE. This is the difference between. I think it's the same in India. Okay, we can continue with the presentation. This next. Strengthening supply chain, the critical component of building resilient health system. The Egyptian Authority for Unified Procurement has been at the front of this effort in Egypt. By focusing on a centralized procurement, efficient logistics, strategic partnership, UBE enhanced resilience of Egypt's health supply chain, ensuring the availability of medicines and medical supplies. Next. Next, please.
Next slide.
Yes. The major challenge faces for UBE is the economic pressure, increased demand of some pharmaceutical, especially in COVID pandemic, out-of-pocket expenditure from the population, misuse of resources. Maybe we have in some area many resources and the others in remote, especially in remote area, low resources. So misuse of resources is very challenge we faces when initiate the Unified Procurement Authority in Egypt. Next, please. Our vision in UBE to be a strategic health technology management entity, enabling efficient utilization of resources and sustainable, equitable access of medical technologies to all Egyptians. Next. Our mission is to do the procurement process with evidence-based technology assessment, value-driven procurement method, establishing a robust and sustainable supply chain. Next, please. We have in the UBE main three pillars. The first pillar is the central administration of health technology assessment. This is very important because before we purchase any pharmaceuticals, any medical devices or medical equipment, we must do the assessment of needs. This department, I think, reviews the needs for all the healthcare facilities and also review the geographical distributions of the resources and also review the suppliers, the innovative medicines, review everything according to our economical situations. The second part is the procurement administration, central administration for procurement, which I think negotiate all the suppliers to reach the value. We are not a price market in Egypt. We are a value market. We get the best product with the best quality with the optimum price. With the transparency method, I think all the suppliers try to enter the UBE to be a supplier for Egypt from international companies and from local companies. Third pillar of UBE is the supply and follow up the contract and follow the shipment to reach the products to the healthcare facilities. This is the main pillars of UBE. Next. Key strategies of UBE in strengthening supply chain is, I think, number one, UBE plays a pivotal role in centralizing and streamlining procurement process at a national level. From a national perspective, UBE focus on centralizing the procurement of medical supplies and pharmaceutical to ensure equitable access of healthcare products for all the Egyptian population. As UBE consolidate demand of medical supplies and pharmaceutical across public health facilities, enabling bulk purchasing and cost saving. This approach ensures consistency, availability of essential items, and reduce the risk of stockouts and overstocking. Next. UBE maintain strategic of critical medicine and medical supplies to respond the emergency and the pandemic or national disaster. For this point, UBE now, we have our ongoing projects for 6 mega projects warehouses for pharmaceutical and medical devices to keep a strategic stock up to 6 months for some products and up to 3 months of some products, as first lessons we learned from the COVID and the pandemic situation. The quality assurance, also we have UBE enforces strict quality control measures to ensure that all procured products meet international standard. We have a regulatory standard, a regulatory body in Egypt, EDA, and also we must ensure all the products, medical devices, diagnostics, it imported with their quality certificates, high level of quality certificate, European FDA, Japanese FDA, and extra. Next. Also, we have UBE leverage digital platform to streamline procurement process, track inventory, and monitor supply chain performance. Thank you, Dr. Hala, because Dr. Hala announcing me their support and access healthcare and Health International for support about the artificial intelligence program for the procurement, which we thinking or looking for this for our digital system. Local manufacturing and the partnership. UBE collaborate with local pharmaceutical manufacturing to reduce depend on imports, because all of us know that production near the market avoid or reduce the shipping cost. So we support local manufacturing for tenders. We support also local manufacturing for preferred to purchasing from them. And also we support the partnership with the international organizations and suppliers, ensure access to global market and innovative technologies. Next. African pool procurement mechanism. This experience encouraged our brothers from African countries to discuss with them the pooled procurement with the African countries. UBE approaches aligns with global best practices in public health procurement and has been instrumental in addressing challenges such as drug shortage and price fluctuations. The African Union level, in the African Union level, there is ongoing efforts to promote pooled procurement mechanism across member states in the African Union. The Africa Center of Disease and Infection Control and Prevention, Africa CDC, has been partnered with UBE to benefit from their procurement model alongside other procurement authorities. The African Union recognize the potential benefit of regional and continental procurement pooling, particularly in addressing access to affordable medicines, vaccine, and medical technologies. Next. As Dr. Hala explained, the AMA, African Medicines Agency, AMA, and the African Continental Free Trade Area aim to enhance collaboration and harmonize regulatory framework. This is support the pooled procurement process in Africa. Additionally, the African Union has supported regional economic communities in establishing joint procurement program. This is John Cassé, the director of African CDC in this picture, with Dr. Hisham Badr, the director of UBE, together in the last meeting in Egypt. Thank you.
Thanks for explaining the entire structure of the Unified Procurement Agency, as well as its expanding role to the entire African Union. I think that's again another example of the regional collaboration and cooperation to de-risk from the external threats. I think is a classic example of resilience. We are coming to the final panel in terms of the consumption of these supplies by the healthcare provider system, as the EHA, because at a consumption level, at a provider level, also the resilience in terms of how do they prepare the provider system to avoid any stockouts. That's one. The second is because all of us understand across the world the low value care in terms of consumption of unwanted diagnostics, unwanted procedures, unwanted devices accounts for 20 to 40% of expenditure, of health expenditure. So given this, both efficiency as well as preparing the provider system for any crisis, public health crisis. So as the major provider agency for entire Egypt, not only Egypt, for you service many displaced populations, as well as, like yesterday we discussed, and the neighboring African countries. So how are you preparing the provider system for more resilience?
Thank you, Dr. Reddy, for your question. And first of all, I'd like to thank Her Excellency Dr. Hala Zaid and Access International for your invitation and having us today in this great event. And also I want to extend my thanks to His Excellency Mr. Ambassador Kamel Galal, Egyptian ambassador to India, for his participation. Before I am answering your question, Dr. Reddy, let me give a brief about Egypt Healthcare Authority. Egypt Healthcare Authority is one of the main three pillars of one of the three players of the Egyptian healthcare reform that have been begun since 5 years ago by Universal Health Insurance Project. So EHA is the main service provider and the public service provider. We are responsible for the main service provider for insurance services in the Universal Health Insurance. We are now in 6 governorates out of 27 governorates in Egypt. We oversee about 354 healthcare facilities between primary healthcare centers and secondary and tertiary hospitals. About 85 of our facilities, healthcare facilities, are accredited by national quality accreditation system. So we are like any healthcare system. We facing many challenges regarding supply chain. One of, for example, for these challenges, supply chain disruption, and we are facing shortage like due to pandemic, due to conflict. Also managing a risk due to dependency on single suppliers, inventory management issues like infrastructure, and you have shortage in central and strategic warehouses, and data management and governance. So back to your question, why resilience is very important in supply chain. Supply chain, like you said in your introduction, Dr. Reddy, is one of the main 6 healthcare blocks of healthcare system. So resilience in supply chain is very important for if we guarantee effective, essential, and availability of essential supplies for healthcare system. So we guarantee with this better health outcome. Also effective and efficient supply availability of healthcare system, enhance accessibility of healthcare services. So it's guarantee socio-economic stabilities and global health security. So we are in Egypt Healthcare Authority. We have a strategy to strengthen our supply chain. We're working in many pillars. The first one is the holistic approach. So holistic approach is very important to integrate all levels of healthcare services between primary and secondary and tertiary, and managing all processes of your supply chain, from procurement to warehousing to dispensing to the just in case model, and to extend your supply chain to the last point of your system. Also, we have some resilience model for centralized procurement in cooperation with UBA, and also centralized monitoring for our forecasting and demand. And by this centralized method, we reaching in 2024 cost reductions about 10% of our consumption. Also resilience model for proper communication between our stakeholders, from inventories, from warehouses till doctors and nurses. One of the most crucial point in supply chain, strengthening of supply chain, is the data management and digital transformation. So we have a centralized data management and inventory management system to manage all of our processes. And we have a plan with access to build AI modeling tool for data analytics and management for our data, and help us for better decision making. So, and fourth pillar is a digital. After digital is workforce, and how we build our capacity building for our professionals and for our workforces. Fifth pillar is the maintain emergency and strategic stock piles. Also, we are have initiative for a green transformation. So we are the first public authority to have a green initiative and to have a green and sustainability department in our hospitals and our facilities. And we achieved to recognized by GGHH to have 2 hospitals recognized as green facilities. Also, we have initiatives with Access International for implementing the first model for value-based healthcare in Egyptian market. So by using value-based healthcare model, it help us to provide better outcome for our patient and cost containment, and it will help us to find opportunity for cost containment. Last but not least, cooperation and collaboration between private and public partnership. And I think the inauguration of His Excellency Dr. Sobki for GLC chapter, MENA chapter yesterday will help us more and more for know more about experiences from different experiences, and help us for many lesson learning. Yeah, finally, and again, I am so happy to be with you today, and look forward to have the next GLC, inshallah, in Cairo next year. Inshallah. Thank you.
Thanks. I think we saved time actually. Otherwise, we were supposed to be as for the 90 minutes 1:30, so we saved 10 minutes for the audience. Thanks all the panelists. It was, I think, an excellent lesson actually in supply chain resilience, starting from USP, then ending with consumption. In fact, this conclave was supposed to be in Cairo. Like Dr. Hala said, this is Ramadan, you won't get anyone. But you came all the way here. So thanks for coming here. And again, unfortunately, but this was a good learning exercise, and any questions and other things we will take up during the lunch break. As I said, they don't require lunch, we require lunch. Thanks again.